Yo, what up, guys? Welcome to another video. So, I am really sick. I don't know if you can tell by my voice, but I'm actually sick. My head, like, if I do any movement, my head hurts. So instead, I decided to do, but what something I've been wanting to do on this channel and kind of do react content, but with art related and something that it kind of relates to what I'm doing. And so what I'm gonna react to is the art of manga. If you guys don't know, I'm actually in the process of creating my own comic book slash manga because my art and the way I'm writing it, the way I'm kind of creating it, is gonna be heavily inspired by manga because that's where I feel where I want to go in the direction. So here it is right here, of like the 2 pages that I've made right here so far. And so this is just the very beginning of what I've been wanted to create and bring into the world for my think of characters. And yeah, so we're gonna react to this, the art of manga. I will put the link in the description below and see what this is about because I really want to learn more about the history of like kind of manga creating and the art and everything. And I thought, oh, this is actually a perfect video, especially of what I've been trying to do lately. So let's check this out.
Before we start off, if you are new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the bell notifications, as 60% of you that watch these videos aren't subscribed. I would greatly appreciate it, and it'll only take a little bit of your time. Without further ado, we can move on to the video. Manga is a form of art that has shaped up from many generations of Japanese influence, which resulted in its first introduction with the right-to-left reading scrolls back in the 12th century. With the name itself coming into common usage within the 18th century, many of the stories from the past are still able to invoke their influences even till now. From manga legends such as Osamu Tezuka and Go Nagai, we would eventually see how their artistic style influenced the creators of the modern era. Really quick, I want to go over some of the various art forms that really do apply to manga. The first one being cartooning. A simplified and easy art form which gives an exaggerated sense of weight to the most notable features of its subject in order to convey emotion and life. Used by legends such as Osamu Tezuka and many others, it was a very popular art form back in the 20th century. Then we have paneling, a technique which dictates the expressfulness and pacing through multiple...
Oh, you know what? Like back in the day, so it's like the old school of like Dororo. I believe it's the artwork of like the old school way of Dororo and how the artwork that was. I'm pretty sure it was like kind of like simplified, not super crazy detail like how it is now. I believe that like the the rebooted anime of that franchise, I guess I don't even call it like or that brand, was like really upscale with like a bunch of detail and gore and all that. Okay. So that's okay. So it's kind of like the U.S. You know how like the U.S. kind of had like ink plots, like old school cartoons, and it was kind of like the hose kind of hands, all that kind of thing. Where wasn't that much detail and all that.
Multiple frames drawings of a manga. It is very underappreciated factor when it comes to the flow of the narrative and the picture of events. Then we have hatching, an art technique which used parallel lines to create tonal or shading effects, effectively adding various textures and dimensions. It is a very effective technique when it comes to the tone of the narrative since it affects the overall brightness of the image. Now, as for the next two definitions, it's more of an era thing, but the first one is hand-drawn. A fan favorite among traditionalists, it gives the artist plenty of freedom on how they want to approach their illustration, and it's a lot cheaper than paying for digital. Texturing and shading styles are also easier to achieve with this method as well. And with the advancement of technology, we would now have digital. As opposed to the traditional hand-drawing method, digital illustrations tend to be more preferred due to it being cleaner and more efficient. While this method seems to be awfully neat, it does lose its overall originality value due to some of the pre-existing tools that come with it. Just wanted to quickly glance over and define some of these terms as they're going to be mentioned a lot throughout this video. This video is meant to be a look over some of the great manga artists.
Because you know how like when you do digital art, you can see you could perfected it. You can clean your lines, you can clean your shading, you can clean anything you want to get it 100% perfect. But I think that it kind of loses a little bit of this magic when you do it from traditional. Because even though our mistakes are there, it's very like it's not really that noticeable, and there's something like a charm to it, I think.
In history, and even a look at the history of manga art and its evolution. Now, for the sake of time, I won't be able to mention every artist out there and every manga that has existed. If not in this video, I hope to go over some of the best artists I've seen in the medium. looking at the different things they do and some of the ways in which they have inspired and evolved the level of which manga is portrayed through art. So really quick, I want to give some honorable mentions to Ishida, the author of Tokyo Ghoul, a master of giving outstanding emotion and resounding thematics while depicting black and white through his artwork, as well as Toshio Osako, the author of Yusugoi, who showed incredible evolution as an artist. I haven't fully read Yusugoi yet, so I couldn't give more of a vivid description of Osako, and as for Ishida, I just needed to save time. But they are easily both amongst the greatest artists of all time. Now, the trickiest part was deciding where I wanted to start this video, and where I actually wanted to leave off. But what other better place to start than with Osamu Tezuka, author of Astro Boy, which was serialized from 1952 to 1968. Even though manga has existed way back in the 12th century, I think it's the best place for us to start with Osamu Tezuka, the great-grandfather of manga, known for his works such as Astro Boy and Dororo. Now, Tezuka needs to be credited for the creation of many manga throughout his career. Now, when it comes to his art style, it can be seen as the fundamental and foundational form as which he uses a cartoony style in which he uses pure black and white tones to help create a sense of movement and direction. He would also use a fine balance of gray tones in order to help what's necessary to stand out. There's really not much other to say than it was simple, effective, and it was way ahead of its time. Another incredibly influential mangaka of the earlier era is Go Nagai, the author of Devilman. In contrast to Osamu Tezuka, Go Nagai was a lot more chaotic and a lot more messy in the way he portrayed his artwork. Still having a bit of the cartoony appearance that was common in that time of manga, he added a lot more violence and a touch of realism and brutality with his art. Just like Osamu Tezuka, Go Nagai also needs to be credited for the vast amount of inspiration for manga.
So this is kind of like the Japanese version of US cartoon when they did ink plots. It's kind of like their version, you know what I mean? Like, and within manga, that's pretty cool.
The most iconic series of all time can be seen taking direct inspiration from Devilman itself and some of his other works like Violence Jack. Another thing he needs to be credited for is his eye for paneling, with iconic imagery and panels that will leave their mark forever. Jumping another 10 years, we see a massive leap in the way that manga has been drawn, and look no further than Fist of the North Star, a manga with artwork that is way ahead of its time, that would serve as inspiration for both JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Berserk. Here, Tetsuo Hara has a much more realistic proportion and characteristics for his characters, in contrast to the more cartoony style that we're more familiar with, predating from the 50s all the way to the 70s, incorporating a more heavy use of cross-hatching and just hatching overall to give his artwork more depth and more of a 3D look. Despite already being way ahead of its time in the beginning, we would then see Tetsuo Hara evolve more and more as an artist during Fist of the North Star. One of the interesting things is Tetsuo Hara would leave the background simple. Eventually we'll be talking about another artist who's known for that as well. But if there's anything we could give Tetsuo Hara credit for, was his amazing attention to detail with some of the scenery, but mostly his characters. Now, I don't think any introduction needs to be given to Dragon Ball. However, there's one thing that Toriyama needs to be credited for is his genius in paneling, drawing motion, and creating a smooth fight scene in the medium of manga. Even though his art is more similar to the more cartoony style, he was able to create a style of his own that would become iconic, and his formula for not only writing a fight but drawing a fight would inspire most of the shonen manga that we have today. When you talk about paneling in manga, you bring up Witch Hat Atelier and Dragon Ball. And despite how popular it is, the manga still has value in analyzing for anybody if they're interested in creating their own manga.
I need to remember those lines for the hands.
You could classify this earlier portion as the video for the foundation of manga, and the art of manga as a whole. Each of these authors deserve all the respect and admiration for what they did. Now, I will be talking about some of the artists who were inspired by these men, beginning with Kentaro Miura. Now, what can really be said about Kentaro Miura's art that hasn't been said already? Considered as one of the greatest manga artists of all time, what's impressive about Miura is his evolution as an artist. Starting off around the same time that Fist of the North Star was ending and while Dragon Ball was still going on, Miura's artwork early on was impressive, but still wouldn't come close to what he would produce later on in Berserk. Taking inspiration...
I mean, Berserk is a whole new level. If you look at the panels in the creation world of Berserk, there's a reason why it's one of the most respected mangas of all time. Like the artwork alone is insane. Like insane.
Inspiration from Tetsuo Hara and also Go Nagai, Miura is a master of hatching and cross-hatching, having the ability to depict black tones and impressionism with his characters almost better than anybody. Whether talking about fight scenes, neutral scenes, symbolic and abstract concepts, or even comedy and romance, Miura truly showed that he was a complete artist, drawing some of the best character arc as well as scenery in manga history. There's so many iconic panels in Berserk, it's almost ridiculous. But this wouldn't be a good segment on Kentaro Miura if I didn't bring up his insane attention to detail. Miura's obsession with making every panel exactly like he wanted is the exact reason why people praise Berserk's artwork. He has shown his talents in the traditional format, capable of drawing dark scenes and environments as is shown in the Conviction arc, but would also depict a great fantasy setting once transitioning into the digital medium in the modern era. Sadly, recent news in the wake of his passing revealed a health condition that Miura was suffering from, which makes his dedication to make every panel perfect even more admirable. Truly one of the greatest of all time. You may have heard his name through realistic...
He's probably like one of those people that's like, when he makes a panel, every little thing has to be perfect, and like sometimes the little details help come a long way, pretty much. Because like in the panel right here, when we're showcasing right here, like he could easily blur out all of these monsters, right? Completely blur them out. Do not even show the ghosts or anything like that, and then like have more detail over in front of these characters, right? But no, that's what makes him an incredible artist, because he's willing to put the extra time to put in the detail. Because yeah, he could easily just blur these out, add some like weird eyeballs and all that, and he would have been fine. But it's like, nope, that's not the way he likes going about it, you know.
Realistic artwork of famous mangas such as Vagabond, Slam Dunk, and Real. But he wasn't always as proficient in the art of realism we know him for, adopting more of a cartoony work in Slam Dunk and evolving from there. Fun fact, Oda, the author of One Piece, wanted to be assistant for Inoue, but at the time he didn't need the help. It seems that was the best for both of them, because Oda and Inoue would later go on to make top-selling manga. In Slam Dunk, we get to truly see his evolution over time as he becomes more realistic with the proportions and begins to master movement and motion, which is very important when depicting a basketball series. When you talk about one of the greatest sports manga of all time, Slam Dunk has to be mentioned. The manga in its later half would provide one of the most iconic panels ever, truly showing off Inoue's ability to make things seem real, no pun intended, and to give them momentum. After Slam Dunk, Inoue would then begin the series that would truly show off his ability to create beautiful artwork and incredible sceneries, almost as if each panel was a carefully crafted portrait, going for a brush technique to create a unique feel to one of his masterpieces, Vagabond. When talking about the greatest art in manga, the discussion cannot be had without Berserk, and especially without Vagabond. Already on top of having a great protagonist, beautiful philosophical themes, Inoue is a true genius on every page. The amount of iconic imagery in Vagabond and Inoue's use of incredibly detailed and beautiful scenery is simply breathtaking. However, Vagabond would be another series that would suffer from hiatus, and until this day has not had a chapter. Instead, Inoue has been focusing on another basketball series called Real. Here he uses the motion he showed in Slam Dunk and the realism he showed in Vagabond, and creates a more grounded and modern setting that helps communicate the time and the message of the characters. Tite Kubo is big on subtle storytelling, and his art style incorporates simple backgrounds that help emphasize the characters and their incredible designs. When it comes to character designs, Kubo's almost unrivaled, and has some of the most satisfying art styles in the medium, especially with the female characters.
Yeah, I can see that.
Kubo incorporates simple paneling with a good use of motion for his fight scenes, but when it comes to his overall style, it's a heavy emphasis of white and black tones, with very few times using gray tones. This can be said for most artists, but Kubo really seems to come into his own, and evolves, especially when creating the faces of his characters. His ability to depict his own creativity with the new forms and abstract powers is, well, impressive, and one can see how this would serve as the main inspiration for Jujutsu Kaisen. Having previous experience...
This is what I like. This is why I want to learn more about the manga art. And still trying to figure out a full style for me, because mine's gonna be more around the Dororo or Astro Boy kind of art style, I guess you could kind of say. But I want to cross over a little bit and go a little bit more detail with it. And one thing I gotta learn for sure is the like detail within like how to express like the faces and also the shading within characters. So that's very difficult, and this is why I kind of just started taking on doing a lot of ink work lately, because I knew that I need to get a lot more better at doing outline work than my coloring work right now. And this, like, man, the expressions on these characters, the shading, the detail, like even the reflection on the basketball court, I think that's insane.
In the realm of doujins, like, which we will not be talking about in this video, Boichi is one of the most well-known artists in the manga community, with manga such as Dr. Stone and Sunken Rock, along with his incredible redraws of One Piece. Once again, when talking about some of the greatest artists of manga, this conversation cannot be had without Boichi, although the said could be same for any of the artists that I've brought up in this video. Sunken Rock is known for its tonal shifts, going from very lighthearted to super serious in a flash. Once again, it's the detail and emotion he's able to convey with the characters that makes his artwork so impressive, having heavy use of shadows to give his moments presence. And I think it really does show off his experience in the realm of doujins due to his incredible ability to depict the human anatomy. Although both of these artists are unique in their own sense, they each both show exceptional creativity and a unique perspective when it comes to world building and character designs. Hayashida has a very chaotic and messy feel, as is seen in the world of Dorohedoro and Die Dark, and Nie sometimes having a refined sketch look in the sci-fi genre, as is seen with Blam and Abara. This whole time I thought it was Blame, but no, I'm an idiot. Hayashida's great at giving the characters a great personality and remarkable character designs, and Nie is a master at depicting manga with little to no dialogue. So if I were to describe them both, Hayashida would be the words are as loud as the actions, and Nie would be the actions with no need for words. If you're interested in checking out some of Hayashida's works, once again, Dorohedoro and Die Dark, and if you haven't read anything by Nie, you are really missing out. I would check out Blame and Abara.
Check him out.
Probably one of my favorite artists in the entire medium. Kakizaki is capable of adding a unique sense of realism as well as impact with almost every panel, offering an outstanding collection of top-tier double-page spreads, with his signature white scratches going through the page. It's a really weird blend, but one that visually works to near perfection. Just like with Inoue and Slam Dunk, he really is great at offering momentum and the natural swing of the eyes as you read the pages. If you were yet to read one of Kakizaki's manga, you were severely missing out. He shows he's a genius with depicting motion in Rainbow, he's great at action as we see in Greenblood, and he even has experience in the horror genre as we see with Hideout. This segment is going to be pretty difficult to talk about, but Asano is a brilliant blend of cartoony characters set in a realistic world, and this does not only speak to him artistically, but as a pretty vivid description to his stories as well. He has a unique style to his characters that are clearly his while being a master of the digital era, taking pictures of the environment around him and then using those environments for his story. Even with his other works outside of Punpun, where he primarily uses an abstract ability to give depression form, there is truly a feeling of despondency and bleakness to the world of Asano. In other words, just by opening one of his manga, you can already feel the impending doom just from the art. Sakamoto is the master of the digital era, serving as another master of realism alongside Takehiko Inoue. Every character, every strand of hair, every building, every piece of clothing looks so real. When I first laid my eyes on Sakamoto's artwork, I just refused to believe that it was a manga I was reading still. In Climber, he shows his ability to depict vivid emotion as well as stellar scenery unlike anything that I've ever seen, and I mean that. In Innocent and in Innocent Rouge, he's capable of giving experiences like death and love artistic form, whether it be through symbolism or exaggeration. He does all of that while still maintaining such a realistic chokehold. It made me feel as if I was reading something out of a history book with pictures that were actually taken. Yusuke Murata is truly an animal of his own, with an eye for the appealing and perfect execution of perspective, composition, and a unique and satisfying look to his characters. Incredible. There is an attention to detail despite maintaining the cartoony look that is foundational to manga as a whole. Murata has countless shows of panels where he depicts his ability to draw something that looks so real, as well as something of the fantasy realm in a way that leaves you speechless. It almost seems that he uses the right amount of shadow with every character, and the right amount of thickness with every single line. When you see a piece of artwork done by Murata, you know it's his even though he's drawing a character from a completely different series. Not always relying on a rough look that may come with hatching, but of not always having a smooth feel to the things.
Because
now, I didn't really know what kind of outro I wanted to do with this video, but hopefully you enjoyed this brief look at what these artists have to offer. In this video, I really wanted to show the evolution and inspiration that comes from a few people, as well as the natural progression throughout the history of manga. Even though the story and the dialogue matters, I think an author's
I think it's just in like the one thing is like the one I really appreciate about the manga like my whole life is, damn, I can't believe can make things very like creative with just black and white, you know what I mean? Or I guess some cases black and gray. Like just how crazy of the detail they put into these characters and emotion and showcase the storytelling of them without like relying on color, without relying on anything else, just straight just detail. Like this is it right here. Yeah, I mean, and you could also tell like the unique styles that some of these artists have, and how some of them are willing to put anything for a little detail. And that's something I'm learning right now when I'm doing inking, because I cannot rely on color anymore right now because I want to get my outlines a lot better. And in order for me to do that, is I need to pay attention to every single line that I do and not get lazy on it. And that's something I gotta like really push myself.
ability to visually communicate said things are equally as important. whether it is through insane realism and sometimes a dark world, or through a more inviting and cartoony format. What matters is that these stories can leave a lasting impact just from what we see alone, and that is the art of manga.
Oh, damn. I didn't mean to click that. Yeah, so this is like incredible because the thing is, I didn't know the like manga started with like a simplistic style too. How like cartoons started with simplistic style, even though in the U.S. we kind of like went backtrack, we kind of went back into that kind of thing. How like a lot of these like new cartoons are chibi style now, which they call it cow arts, I believe, and it's not really respected as much anymore because everybody's just doing it nowadays. I could be wrong. They probably changed up now. I'm not sure yet. But like I said, like in the beginning, it's like the reason is I really want my inspiration go towards manga, is because they really tell better stories and better emotion than a lot of U.S. comic books of what I've been reading. And there's a reason why manga have been outselling U.S. comic books in the U.S. Because of course the biggest thing is storytelling, because it's not really confused with continuity and all that kind of stuff. And also in my opinion, the art's better than the US comic books in some cases, well, what I've seen lately. And so I was like, you know what, like if I'm gonna draw a comic book / manga at this point, I don't know what to call it, right? It's probably gonna be like a hybrid or something. Like if I'm gonna create something and we're like realistically gotta go with my gut of like, okay, so manga artists are doing something right and US comic books are doing something wrong. I think it's obvious of where I should learn my storytelling skills, where to go compared to where not to go. You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't have that much energy right now because I'm sick, but yes, that's where I'm gonna learn. And I did my first panels. They're not perfect or anything like that, but I'm very proud of myself and just going for it and just like, all right, cool. Because each of these standard panels, I like try something new with the shading and cross hatch and all that kind of stuff. And it's very basic stuff, nothing too crazy because I'm still learning. What I really want to accomplish, like every new page I do, is trying something bigger, more bolder, and like go crazier with the art and what I could bring to the table. And I will be making a full video on this in the future, guys. Like when I have more pages done, so I can show you guys my progress of the comic book, how's it going and stuff. And yeah. So yeah, there it is, pretty much, guys. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys hit the like, subscribe. Again, I'll put the link in the description below. I think if you guys want to check out like I guess like the history of manga for yourselves or more content that this person made, check it out. And then yeah, so reaction content will be here and there, not always gonna be something I'm gonna be doing as much, but I thought this would be a good kind of like a learning process of kind of me creating my comic book and learning, because I actually learned a lot just by watching this. And then there's gonna be like some artists I didn't even know about that I'm gonna check out and study from them. And yeah, I love studying manga lately, like more like just looking at the art right now. Yeah, all right guys, so that's pretty much it, guys. Peace out, much love, and I'll see you guys on the next stream. Bye. Woo! Next stream, next video. Whoop,